Hello, welcome to session 5 of this unit 4, which still deals with the discussion on market equilibrium. This time around, we want to look at how a tax or subsidy affects equilibrium conditions in the market. Have you heard about taxes and subsidies before? If you're a worker, you are expected to pay taxes to the government. And these taxes are used to develop the country. Subsidies are transfers of income to support individuals, firms, or organizations that need some kind of support. And our task in this session is not to explain what taxes and subsidies are into detail, but to find how they affect equilibrium condition, how they affect. That's why the topic of this is the effect. We want to look at the effect of tax. So our major concern is the effect. How do they affect the markets equilibrium conditions in yeah, and we want to limit our discussion to algebraic analysis. However, we would add some numerical examples to understand all the algebraic analysis. The graphical illustration of the imposition of a tax or subsidy will be discussed in our next session, where we will look at the effect of shifts in the supply curve on market equilibrium. So here, just relax and let's go through the algebraic analysis and numerical examples of the influence of tax or subsidy on the market equilibrium. So by the end of the session, we believe that you should be able to show algebraically how the supply equation is affected by imposition of tax and how the quantity demanded and quantity supplied are also affected by the imposition of tax. You should also be able to show how the supply equation is affected by subsidy and how quantity demanded and quantity supply are affected by imposition of what? Subsidy. Alright, so let's get started. Now, what happens when there is tax? What happens? Now, remember, we know that, let me divide my board first into about 3. Okay. We know that at equilibrium, so now assuming I have my demand curve, my supply curve, so this will be my Q, say 0, P0. The vertical is for the price and the horizontal is for Q. So this part is the equilibrium point where quantity demand is equal to what? Quantity supply. Alright. And they have the same market price. When there is tax imposition, what happens? One thing you have to put in your mind is that when there is tax imposition or subsidy imposition, it is affected, it affects the supply equation. And when that is done, you have to find a new equilibrium price using the new supply equation. So assume our normal supply equation is what? We know is minus C plus what? dP. So when there is tax imposition, what we are going to do is we are going to subtract the tax from the price, this one. So when tax is imposed, so when tax is imposed, what happens is our QS now becomes minus C plus D. Now we subtract the tax from the price, so we now have what? P minus T. So when this happens, we will now have to find a new equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity using this new supply what equation. But we are going to keep the normal demand equation, which we know that the Q day is equal to what? A minus what? BP. Alright. So let's look at this new supply equation and then the normal demand and see what we are going to get algebraically. So I'll have minus C plus D, P minus T equal to A minus what? BP. Alright. So I can expand, so this will be dP minus dt equal to A minus BP. Okay. I want to group like terms. I want to keep all the P's together and then I'll make P the subject. So I can bring this one to the other side and bring the minus C and minus dt to the A. So here I'm going to have dP plus dp, which will be equal to a plus c plus dt. Now I want to make p the subject. I factor p out. I have b plus d equal to a plus c plus what? dt. Okay, so here since I want to make p the subject, I have to divide both sides by what? This b plus what? D. So it means that my p equilibrium price will be what? A plus c plus dt over b plus d. That is what I am going to get for the equilibrium price. Having found the equilibrium price, I can put p into the p as input p, which is equal to this, into the QD function. So that my QD now becomes, I want to find the equilibrium quantity. It will now become A minus B, bracket open, A plus C plus DT all over B plus D, bracket closed. So I can expand, and when we expand, we are going to have, say, A minus AB minus AC minus DT all over B plus D. This is over 1. So now I can further have A bracket open B plus D minus AB minus AC minus DT all over. So now I have found the LCM, so all over B plus D. So I'm going to have AB plus AD minus AB minus AC minus dt all divided by b plus d brackets into brackets. This AB will cancel this AB. So in the end, I am going to have only AD minus AC minus dt, a b dt. Remember, this b was multiplying this dt, so forgive me, here is supposed to be dt minus b dt. All right, so I have AD minus AC minus B dt minus B dt. Let me clean and write it again. Okay, minus B dt all divided by B plus D as my equilibrium quantity. Now, having this, let's try and solve some example. I'm sure that this numerical system is confusing some of you, but when we solve questions, it will be a bit simple for you to understand. So let's take numerical examples for this. Let's take numerical example. So you can write the question down. You can write the question down. So let me write the question at this part. Then I will erase the other portions I've written and resolve the question. So given quantity demanded to be 60,000 minus 500p, and then quantity supply to be only 500p. Now I find the equilibrium price and quantity. Then the II, we want to find we want to find or let's say there is tax of 2 cedi, 20 Ghana cedis, tax of 20 Ghana cedis. So we have to find the new equilibrium price, find the new equilibrium P and Q. Okay, so I can close this part. Let me erase the others, then we solve the question. But you can start solving so that when I also solve, you will just compare your answer to my answers that I'm going to have. We know that at equilibrium, or the equilibrium, for the equilibrium condition, our quantity demanded should be equal to our quantity supply. Our quantity demanded should be equal to our quantity supply. So we can use that to solve and find out what we are going to get. So I'm giving you some time to do the solution on your own, then I'll solve for us all to see if what you did was right or wrong. All right, so can we try it together? I believe by now you should be done with yours. I want us to try it together to compare what you did to what we are all going to have, and I am done solving. Then we can tell if you are on track or you are outside the track. All right. Okay. So I know my QS is equal to what QD. So I'll say 500p is equal to what 60,000 minus what 500p. What am I going to do? I'll group like terms. So I'll bring this minus 500p to add to this. It will come and add because when the negative crosses the equal sign here, it will tend toward positive. So I'll have 500p plus what 500p equal to 60,000. This will give me 1000p equal to what 60,000. What do? I want to make p the subject, so I have to divide both sides by 1000. Now this 1000 will go into 60,000, 60 times 1000 will cancel 1000. I'll have p to be what 60. Since I have p to be 60, I can put p equal to 60 into either the supply function, which is 500p, or the quantity demand. The supply function seems to be simple, so I'll try and put it here. So I'll make it 500 times what 60. Now 500 times 60 gives me 30,000. So I know that my equilibrium price is what 60 Ghana cedis, and my quantity is what 30,000. Now there was tax what imposition, so I have to find after tax. After tax, so after tax, what happens? Now T was equal to what 20. So after tax, QS now becomes 500. We have to subtract the tax from the what price, so it will be P minus what 20 minus 20. We can expand to have 500p minus 1000. All right, so I know that my QS should be equal to what QD for equilibrium. So I'll equate 500p minus 1000 to 60,000 minus 500p. I'll group like terms, so 500p here, this minus 500p, I would like to add to this one, so I have plus 500p. Then I'll equate it to 60,000. Now this minus 1000 will come and add to the 60,000, so I have plus 1000. All right. Now I'll have 1000p equal to 60,000 plus 1000 gives me what? Here is supposed to be 10,000. Sorry, 10,000. 500 times 20 is 10,000. So it's 10,000. Okay, so 60,000 plus 10,000 gives me 70,000. Now I will have to divide both sides by 1000 because I want to make P the subject. So here P now becomes 70 because 1000 cancels 1000, 1000 cancels the 70,000 and gives us 70. So we can now put P equal to 70 into our QD to get the new equilibrium, or we can even put it into the QS that we have here. So assuming I want to put it into the QS, so I have 500 bracket open 70 minus what, 20. So I have 500 bracket open 70 minus 20 gives me what, 50. So I have 500 times 50, which gives me 25,000. So after tax, the equilibrium price will be what, 70, and the equilibrium quantity will be 25,000. Now we can see that after the tax of 20 cedis, the price increased from 60 cedis to what, 70 cedis. However, the equilibrium quantity before the tax decreased from 30,000 towards 25,000 after the tax. So after the tax, the price increased by 10 cedis and the quantity decreased by 5,000 units. Now we're going to look at that of subsidy. We're going to look at that of subsidy. What will influence, or how does the subsidy affect the quantity or supply equation and quantity demanded and quantity supplied after there is subsidy imposition? That is what we are going to talk about in the next slide. Okay, so just as we did for the tax, the subsidy is also imposed on the supply, so it's going to affect the supply. Tax is subtracted from the price, but subsidy is added to the price. That is what you should note. Subsidy is what added to the price. So now we have S adding to what? P, so that we can have minus C plus dP plus what? ds as our quantity supply. And the equilibrium quantity supply should be equal to what? Quantity demand. We know that our quantity demand is A minus what? BP. Now my new quantity supply is minus C plus dP plus what? ds. I want to make P the subject, so I have to group like terms. I can have BP plus dP equal to A plus C minus ds. I factor P out. I have B plus D equal to A plus C minus what? ds. Now P will be equal to A plus C minus ds, all divided by B plus what? D. I can put this one into the demand function so that my QD becomes A minus B bracket open A plus C minus ds over B plus D. We assume this A is divided by 1. So I'll end up having QD. If you expand and you do your fraction as we did for the tax, you're going to have AD minus BC plus BDS for the equilibrium quantity. So here, assume with the same example, assume now the subsidy is what? 20 cedis. So we have changed the tax to what? Subsidy. What are we going to get? We know that our QD was what? 60,000, right? Minus 500p. And the QS was 500p. You can solve it on your own, but let's do it together. I know that equilibrium condition is QD is equal to QS. So in this case, the normal equilibrium before the supply, we have it already. We solved it and the Q was 30,000. You can refer to the previous slide. And the P was 60. So now let's look at after subsidy. What are we going to get? After subsidy, our QS is going to be 500p plus 20 instead of minus, right? So we're going to have 500p plus 10,000 10,000. So QS is this. So now we have to find a new equilibrium after the subsidy. So we are going to equate the old quantity demand, which is 60,000 minus 500p. Now our new quantity supply, which is 500p plus what? 10,000. We want to group like terms. So we are going to move this 500p to this one and bring this 1,000 to this. So 60,000. When this 10,000 can cross the center, it's going to be minus. So we're going to have minus 10,000, which will be equal to 500p plus 500p. What are we getting? 60,000 minus 10,000, we are going to get 50,000, which will be equal to what? 1,000p. Now I want to make p the subject, so divide both sides by 1,000. Divide both sides by 1,000. 1,000 cancels this 1,000. 1,000 goes into 50,000 50 times. So we have a new equilibrium price to be what? 50. Now having a new equilibrium price of 50, what do? We have to find a new equilibrium quantity. So we can put it here. So our QS now becomes 550 plus 20. So I am going to get 500 times 70. True or false? 500 times 70. 7 times 5 is 35. Then I have 3 zeros, so 35,000 as my equilibrium quantity. So after subsidy, the price reduces from equilibrium price reduces from 60 to what? 50. But the equilibrium quantity increases from 30 towards 35,000 units. And that brings us to the end of this session. You can solve more examples on your own. Thank you very much and see you in the next session.